Sikh organisations across the UK have put a plan in place to deal with the coronavirus emergency. It's been put together by the Sikh Council UK and the Sikh Doctors Association. Well, to find out more, I'm joined on the line now by Sukhjeevan Singh from the Sikh Council UK. Sukhjeevan, thanks for joining us on Connections.
Good evening, Aisha. Thank you for having me.
Before we talk about the wider plans, Sukhjeevan, I understand that the Akal Takht in India, which is the highest political institution for Sikhs, has issued an edict regarding the coronavirus. What does this directive say?
In essence, Akal Takht is the highest spiritual and temporal power of Sikhs around the world. And the guidance and then the edicts that are in that guidance, a lot of the things are the same as what was in our directives previously in complying with government guidance and healthcare advice. But some of the new things was one of them was that to ask all Sikhs to practice self-isolation in one way or another, socially distancing themselves from other members of society. Another was complete clarity on the way that Gurdwaras operate internationally, in that their operations should minimise and all events should be postponed temporarily, at least for 2 weeks. That's internationally, but obviously we just have heard the Prime Minister and the guidance currently is 12 weeks that everything is going to continue in this way at least.
What does this mean then specifically for British Sikhs?
For British Sikhs, it's much the same as yesterday because British Sikhs have constantly adapted to becoming more and more compliant with the social distancing guidance that was provided. So some Gurdwaras have closed, but because of the way that Gurdwaras operate, and especially now as the community secretary mentioned that a lot of the pressure of delivering these food packages will come on local councils, and we've been working very closely with local councils to transform and adapt the Gurdwaras. So for public gathering, they are essentially closed, but they continue to operate as community hubs and for religious practice, in the sense that the Gurdwara in itself is the house of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, our spiritual guru, which is our scripture, and the respect and the protocol surrounding them will continue in the Gurdwara by the priests that live there.
Okay, so how does this work in practice then? Because you're saying about Gurdwaras being there for the community, but for some of the community like the elderly, they are an important social hub as well. That kind of physical connection is so important. So how are you kind of adapting to that then in the Gurdwaras?
Lots of Gurdwara have taken use of virtual means of delivering services. So that means live streaming, use of radio stations. We have 4 Sikh media outlets, channels on television, on mainstream television, that lots and lots of elderly people are taking use of. And many Gurdwaras and regional Gurdwara councils have given advice for elderly people to stay at home. So for that reason, I think it's really quite simple that they will still be able to take benefit of the spiritual connection and in some senses the social connection of actually watching the services being carried out in the Gurdwara, but just not physically being able to go there.
And are you confident that, 100% of the people who need this service are able to do that and are, for example, online or have the technical wherewithal to be able to take part in this?
I don't think we can make that guarantee, especially with elderly people and their access to online services, but the TV channels really make it easier. But apart from that, a lot of Sikh life in itself is about contemplation, about meditation and prayer. So this will be a challenge like it is for all parts of community, but I really do think our elderly are, they really have the skills to combat this.
Absolutely. Now, langars are such a huge, important part of the kind of wider outreach that the community does as well. So what's the advice around langars?
So in the Akal Takht edict this morning, we've been told to really look at the teaching of Garib Damu Guru Di Golak, which means that the treasury of the Gurdwaras, so the abundance of assets that they have, all the assets that they have, should be used for social benefit and the benefit of mankind. So Gurdwaras are really looking at different ways that their services are able, especially the langar service, is able to be utilised in a adaptive way in society, in the way that we need.
Okay, so like we're hearing about people kind of delivering meals to people, meal packages. Is that something we could see then? The Langar may be operating in that, because for those who don't know, the Langar is the community meal that is shared. It's a free community meal offered by Gurdwaras. So is that it? Could it adapt then, and might we see you delivering meals to those in need?
Langar, in the last week, lots of Gurdwaras have transferred their services to deliver like a kind of meals on wheels, a mobile food operation. But what we're looking at now, especially after this late afternoon, evening, the Prime Minister's address, and especially what the Community Secretary will say, we're looking to work with local government, with councils, to find a way of making this sustainable, safe and effective.
That is really important, isn't it? Looking ahead as well, Sukhjeevan, Vaisakhi is not that far away. So what are your thoughts about this? What's the planning at the moment in the light of the coronavirus then?
Well, with Vaisakhi coming up, for lots of different religious groups, lots of different events are coming up that are very, very important. With Vaisakhi especially, one of the key celebrations are the Nagar Kirtans, which are huge congregations of people on streets singing the praises of God. Unfortunately, this year, all Nagar Kirtans have been postponed. And in terms of any other gathering at the Gurdwara, because the guidance is still in place that no one should really be leaving home unless absolutely essential. So no services at the moment are anticipated to take place in the way that they normally would. Of course, like I said, because Gurdwaras have residential priests, the actual religious part of that will still carry on at Gurdwaras, but we'll make use of the TV channels and the different media outlets that we have to make that accessible to people at home.
Does that mean then that we're not going to see Gurdwaras having to close because obviously the priests live there, but to the public they will be closed completely?
Yes, you will see a very great degree of that. Of course, with Gurdwaras, except for the priests, there are other key religious workers that come in terms of cleaning, lots of voluntary parts of society that keep the Gurdwara running. So you will see that in a very minimalized form, lots of Gurdwaras have placed very strict restrictions on people coming if they are elderly. Lots of Gurdwaras have restricted times, and some Gurdwaras have shut down completely. But what we're looking to achieve all around the UK is some form of the Gurdwara still remaining open, but completely in compliance with the social distancing guidelines.
Sukhjeevan Singh from the Sikh Council UK, thank you for joining us today on Connections on BBC Radio Leeds.
Thank you very much.